never come back again. It's got a death curse. It's got a death curse.
Drop.
Into a brand new episode of Death Curse Club. I'm owner-operator Zach Hilton, and my wonderful bartender, my amazing co-host, the one, the only, the talented, the Brooke.
That's me.
The Brooke. She has a wonderful knock list. All right.
I do.
Welcome to the Death Curse Club. This is a huge episode because so much is going on. We have an interview with Mary Beth McAndrews, director of this wonderful movie, Bystanders, which is out January 21st on VOD. You can rent it, you can buy it, you can do whatever you want. Just watch it and support her and her new film. We also are going to do a spoilerific review of Wolfman. Yeah. This is going to be good times on the show tonight. So let's not mess around. Let's get into things. We're going to have our interview with the director of Bystanders happening right now. I'm excited about this one. This one, we have a person just doing everything in the entertainment business. I'm talking editor-in-chief of Dead Central, producing Dread original movies, and has her directorial debut with this movie, Bystanders, which you can get on VOD January 21st. So I'm very excited about talking to the one, the only, Mary Beth McAndrews. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Hello. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So I got to watch the film and I'm very excited. So no spoilies for anybody who wants to check this out. Like I said, January 21st. But what I found amazing is, like, this is your directorial debut. You've produced other films going into this. I wanted to know how you got involved with this particular project because it's from another writer and star of the film. So I wanted to know how this landed on your lap.
Yeah, so this has like been a long time coming, really, honest. Like if I actually like really think about it. So I first read Bystanders I think in 2018. I knew Jamie Alvey, who wrote the script and also plays Claire in the film. I knew her from Twitter. We were both writers, freelance writers. We had written for some of the same places. And so we followed each other. I was aware of the projects. And I was living in Chicago at the time, and I was working on my master's thesis, which was about women-directed rape revenge films. And she posted, I have a project I'm working on, a script called Bystanders. She kind of, gave a log line, and I was immediately like, I have to read this. So I asked for the script, read it, loved it, thought about it all the time. And I knew I wanted to be involved. I just didn't know how I could be involved. I didn't really have much to offer other than notes on the script.
Right.
But once I got my position at Dread Central, I was, very luckily given opportunities to learn about producing and working in the space because Dread Central is owned by Epic Pictures Group, who also has the Dread label, who put out movies like The Jester, which I helped produce, and Satanic Hispanics, and I did not work on that one, and a lot of other films. And I knew I wanted to get this movie made, and so a lot of the projects that I worked on were like budget stuff, content movies, because I love that stuff. I thought it was really incredible things to unlock in space. And I pitched it to my boss, and after quite a long time of me harassing and asking please, said, okay, here's the very small budget. Will you direct it? And I went, because I had never considered directing. I always thought I would be the analyst. I never thought that I would have what it took. I didn't really know what it took. I think I just had something made up in my head about what it took. Right. And I didn't know I had it. But when an opportunity like that falls into your lap, it's kind of silly to say no.
Right.
I said, all right, let's try it, and I loved it. I think I have the directing bug. I would like to do it again. So
Yeah,
that's the kind of long story.
we'll definitely get into more than that in a little bit. So, first time directing, and one of the first things that I picked up, because I've been able to act and do stuff like that as well, where night shoots are horrible. I mean, they're the hardest thing, and a lot of people, they like to film 4-day into night, change the color grade, but it seems like a lot of this was just straight night. So, what was that like with the crew and cast? Like, everybody must have been on everybody's Christmas card list.
I mean, everyone knew going into it. Like we started pre-production, I was like, this is going to be a lot of night because we can't fake night in the woods. Like, almost all of this movie is outside in the woods or in front of the cabin, and there's just like no way with the resources we have we can fake it. And fine, that's fine. We're just all gonna have to really get used to this sleeping schedule. And so it was rough for sure, especially because I think half of the schedule, if not more of it, was nights.
Right.
And it helps that I am a night owl, so that was great. And the adrenaline for sure. But I will say, I have a big appreciation now for when I review movies or watch a movie that has a lot of outside nighttime stuff. I'm like, I know how hard that was and how exhausted you all were and how everyone had to do the weird sleep schedule thing where like we were off and then the next week was all overnight so we could adjust our sleeping schedule and everything. So yeah, it was just a lot of weird sleep schedules and getting used to not knowing what time of day it was, and also just like never being able to properly text my husband because I had no idea if he was actually asleep, and not knowing like what hour it was that was like a normal person time to be alive.
Absolutely. The other thing that I want to point out of the movie, because I do enjoy this film, and I think one of its big things that I love about it is the cast. I think your cast, between the frat boys being POSs and living up to those monikers, I think that's okay to say. And then you have the couples, the bystanders, if you will. I think they all do such a good job of conveying quirkiness, and with the frat boys, like the lead frat boy, I was hook, line, and sinker, and he is
Bob
so
Wilcox.
Yes.
He is terrifying, and that was his audition. Like,
really,
we knew from the audition. Like, I was like, he's Cody. Like, immediately, I was like, no one else, because he doesn't bring to it the expected like frat boy vibe. He's got this very chilling affectation and very quiet and very kind of spooky. And I said, oh, this is perfect for Cody. This is even better than I could have imagined. So I'm glad you shouted him out, because he was just stellar. He's incredible, and everyone needs to work with him because he is truly an incredible actor.
His scene when he's having the private conversation with the drink, and he is so quiet, and then to fast forward just a couple of scenes later where he's quiet in front of also doing like when they're all, gagged up and stuff, and he's bringing the same thing. There's nothing about him that's changed. It's just weird how it's able to convey that way. Like, oh, you think it's cute one moment and then it's not.
Well, and I think that's really important in this movie, because a lot about this movie is about, a lot of times these kinds of films, like rape revenge films, are about strangers and attacking women. But so often women are people who, not just women, anyone who experiences sexual assault, it's almost always from someone they know. And, in this movie, he's not like a boyfriend, but he is someone she knows and has a crush on. And so we play with that expectation of like, oh, he's the good guy, right? Like, he might be. But then also establishing that, like, that this is how a lot of, I've been spoken to like this by men, and like how a lot of men talk to women. Like, it's not, I know that like it's hard to hear, but it's also not that far outside of the realm of reality. And I think that's something that, Jamie really wanted to convey in her script, and I really wanted to capture as the director, of really showing how easy it is for these guys to mask just how terrible they are.
Right, right. And I think it all gets conveyed. I think it's obvious that it seems like this is something close to the chest that you guys have taken upon that is serious. Now coming in with the bystanders, the heroes, if you will, like when they come in, they're wonderful actors as well. Like obviously she wrote it, and his name's escaping me.
Garrett Murphy.
He's tremendous and quirky as all get out. Like you can tell, like he had fun, kind of like being in his head.
He did. So Garrett was not even our first cat, like wasn't the first guy we cast, but the guy couldn't do it due to scheduling problems, and we had Garrett read, and I just couldn't, honestly, like no shade to the guy that we initially cast. I'm sure he was amazing, but like Garrett was just, and he exceeded expectations and took Gray's character to a place that was not on the page, and he put so much of his personality into the character in a way that I think is so beneficial for the movie. I think it adds more of that levity that is a little kind of like what, but you also enjoy it because you don't expect it to be like you don't expect them to be as playful as they are, and Garrett adds a playfulness to this that I think really helps this movie stand out and keep it from just being a more dour film. And you know, I'd have him do a take reading from like doing his lines, but every time he'd improvise, it just felt more like him and felt more natural and just felt like it fit the movie better. And his instincts as an actor were incredible, I think. And he's new, like this is his first feature.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
This was almost everyone's first feature.
Wow.
Brandy Botkin had been in features before. She played Abby, and obviously Cheney Morrow and Hannah Fierman, who are in the film, and I won't spoil how, they've obviously been in films, but all of our actors are very new and very green, and I really like truly lucked out by having probably the coolest cast of all time. I'm biased, but they're really like truly all amazing.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I saw that Hannah was in it, I was like, I love you in VHS. This is amazing.
Okay, look, I wear my Blair Witch Project shirt. I have a Blair Witch Project tattoo. I am a big found footage person. So when my producer said I could get Hannah to play this part, I almost cried because I was like, do you understand what this means? It's just like to me as a person, like not even as a director, just like as a person who loves horror. Like that was just to hear. And then I knew Cheney from the new Wrong Turn movie and some other stuff. And so it was just, and Malum. And so it was great to get to have that experience to work with them, but then also to help really work with these new actors. Cause I was like, oh, we're all new. We're all just doing what we can out here in the woods. And it was incredible. Like they're new, but they were such professionals. Like it was actually incredible. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, like, it's kind of exciting for a new group of people to come into this and be the beginning of everybody's careers going forward. And I know you said that you have the directing bug now, and I noticed the like on your Instagram you said you're a defender of found footage. You have the tattoo of Blair Witch. So like, do you see yourself directing a found footage movie soon?
Yeah, I would love to. Like, that is my goal, is to make a found footage movie. I think so often so many directors say, oh, I only made found footage because like it was a good way to get into the door. But me, I'm like, no, my dream is to make a found footage movie. Like, I just want to make a weird, cool found footage movie. So in my head, I have some ideas. I don't have any like thing officially in the works yet, but it is the dream to make a found footage movie. Okay. Absolutely, like very badly.
You're in the door. You can do it now. You have credits.
I know. And honestly, at this point, it's like I could probably just shoot it on my phone in my house and like see what happens. And like I'm writing a book right now about Paranormal Activity, the movie, Warren Pelle's movie, and so I'm just like, damn, I'm even more inspired. This guy literally it was a computer programmer and just like bought a camera and made the most influential movie of the 21st century. Like, whatever. That easy, right?
That easy. Cheapest movie, made the most money.
I know, it's great. No problem. I can definitely capture that again, right?
Right, absolutely. Now you've done directing, you've produced. Do you prefer like one or the other so far? I mean, I know you've only done the one movie, but what's the difference between directing something and producing?
So I would say that's actually a great question because, like, for a long time I did not know. I was like, who? Producing is harder, I think, because you are, at least in the things I've done for producing, you just have to kind of be able to do anything, especially if you're on set. You have to be ready to just like, oh, I have to fix this now. Okay, cool. Someone's pants ripped and we don't have a needle and thread to fix it. Like, how do we work together to find someone who can fix them? My producer,
Right.
Jeff, that literally was one of his jobs, was he found a seamstress to fix a pair of pants for us. Like,
Wow.
so incredible. You have to be such a fixer. But the thing is, I love doing that. And directing I produced and directed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit hard to like figure out where the line was in terms of producing versus directing because I was wearing so many hats. But like, I think I do really love producing. Directing is great, especially like if you don't have to be as concerned about some of the other issues going on set. Like, it was nice when like my producer Jeff was dealing with things and I was just directing. Like, I will say, like, that is nice to only be responsible for that. But producing is fun because you get to problem solve, and I love a good project management. I've always worked in like digital media. I've always done like I've done shoots for like social media stuff and everything, and I love the logistics of all of that. So I really do love producing.
That's fantastic. Well,
yeah.
You've gotten the producer credit, you got the director credit. Is a writing credit in the future?
Yeah.
What an answer! The octave that went.
Yeah, I do want to try my hand at it. Again, I have this thing of like, I don't know how to write. I'm like, but like, bitch, your whole career is writing. Like your whole career. And like, it's because it's fiction. And I'm like, I can't write fiction. And like, that's such a lie. I like, that is a lie. I think it's a cop out for me just like to not try something. So I've decided no more of these cop outs. Worst case scenario, you write something and never show it to anyone. You know what I mean? Like, final draft is on my computer. I have lots of ideas like fleshed out into summaries. They're just not written into scripts because I'm scared. But it is on the horizon. Like, I think it's time for me to step into it because I mean I loved directing Jamie's script. It was amazing, and I absolutely no regrets about that, especially because the script changed so much, like with with we got on set and everything. But yeah, it would be awesome to see if I have it in me to take a script from the words I wrote to make it into an actual movie. Yeah.
Right. Because like the cool thing about filmmaking is it is kind of a team effort. And so
absolutely. Especially indie horror, especially. There is no room for ego if you want to make a good indie horror movie. I'm sorry, but you can't have an ego. It's just like not going to work. Unless you have unlimited time, and who has that, especially on an indie budget. But anyway.
Right. So you are editor-in-chief, you've written reviews, and I'm sure after this was a kind of a different look on things from pre-directing a film to now. Do you feel it's a like kind of changing the way that you review film?
Yeah, so yes and no. I don't think it's changing how it's changed my perspective a lot. Like, I don't think it's making me necessarily like a nicer or a meaner critic. I think it makes me a much more well-informed critic because now I know how they did it, like, even more. Like, obviously we all know how these things are happening. Like, being the person who is like watching it happen, is directing that happen, I have a more of appreciation of just how hard it is to get any movie made, and how even like the worst movie you've ever seen was still really hard to get made, and how it is such a difficult process. So yeah, it's really just kind of shifted how I approach criticism. And like, I always wanted to avoid especially ripping apart movies, especially indies, because again, like, we're all trying our best, but now especially it's very much my perspective of like, if you can avoid ripping a movie apart, it's probably for the best. I'm not saying don't give it a bad review. I'm not saying that, but I think sometimes people get so mad and they take things personally in movies for reasons I don't quite understand. And I think, while I was never that kind of critic, it's given me an even deeper appreciation for the art, the craft, and and therefore in reviewing it, I feel like I just have a different, like, a little bit more context and like thought of the care that went into whatever I saw on screen, and like, oh, that failed. Can you tell why? Like, does it feel like they didn't care? Because you can also now, like, I think for me even more, I can tell if someone didn't care. And I think it's not like some like crazy sixth sense that I've developed. I know it's pretty easy to tell even if you haven't made a movie. But I think if you've made a movie, especially an indie horror movie, you can kind of you get the vibe of like, oh, you actually cared about this versus you just wanted to make this to like get your foot in the door. You know, like there's a little bit of you can tell a little bit to me.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in late 90s and early 2000s, I feel like there was a lot of, we're making the trend horror, Screamworks, so let's
it was though, because like that's so interesting, because I'm writing about this in my book, and because I'm writing about like cultural context of paranormal activity, and like found footage didn't really become a thing even after Blair Witch and post 9/11, but it was so interesting because in the late 90s and early 2000s there wasn't a unifying thing with horror. It was just like, oh, we're just going to keep doing what we know. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, 9/11 and torture porn that like horror got its identity back a little bit. And so it's really interesting to see like when those trends are like when that cycle starts up again. But that's 100% the case in the late 90s. Like, obviously, I have some very like the 90s are underrated, but they are not very united. I know. I think there are, but like they're not. They don't have like the united. Like 80s was the slasher, 70s. 70s, 80s was a slasher, like the giallo of the 60s, and there's not really that defining moment of the 90s. It was kind of like everyone trying to figure out their identity, and it was like spaghetti at the wall, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. What got you into horror? Because I mean, you go from last year, you're reviewing 80 movies, you're doing a movie. What was the thing that made you love this?
Oh God, I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, but I first watched a horror movie when I was 4.
Okay.
You know, appropriate age, and my paternal grandfather, who made a lot of great decisions, was babysitting me. I don't know why, but he thought Jaws would be a great thing to watch for a 4-year-old to watch while I'm babysitting. Like, hell yeah. Like, didn't think that it would impact me in any way. Well, I wouldn't go in the ocean for years. I wouldn't even swim in indoor swimming pools, and I was in fact terrified that a shark would come out of the drain when I took baths. So that movie destroyed me. And of course, instead of like being terrified forever, I wanted to watch more. And I was a scaredy cat. Like I loved sleeping with the light on at night. I didn't like my closet door open. Like I was scared, but I still watched everything, like I was a kid who was terrified of the dark, but was ready to watch Poltergeist, which is why I hated my closet, and it just kind of evolved into today.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. And so just because it is my kind of a former show that I did, and I'm very interested to see where this goes, have you gone to things like Halloween Horror Nights?
No. Well, I've never been to Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, okay.
Hans and me have a weird relationship because
wow.
I know, it's very weird. So it's very weird because I like the concept. Like I took my mom. Like my mom came to one of my film festival premieres with me in Philly, and we went to the Penn State Penitentiary, and then they get into like a giant haunt for Halloween, and I took her.
Right.
Because I was like, this will be fun. And like, I'm almost 6 feet tall, and she is 5'2". So like, we are very, very big difference in height. Yeah. And I was fucking grabbing her and like cowering over her. Like, I don't do well I'm very jumpy. So like, I can handle it watching a movie. But when they're in my face, I'm like, I'm going to scream and cry. I don't actually cry, but I scream. And then they come for me because I'm yelling, and they just target the yeller, and I screw myself over. Yeah. But yeah, I don't. It's really funny. Like in-person haunts are like too much for me. Weirdly enough. I know, it's very funny.
It's fascinating because my wife is the polar opposite. Wants to go through a hunt because it's 3 minutes, she's in and out. You send her to an hour, 45 minute of terror. That's the difference. It's interesting how the mind can play tricks on you like that.
Yeah, but like with me, the movie, like if you're watching it at home, it's obviously a theater. You can't do this. You can pause it. You can walk away. You can get away. And like in the hunt, when you're in there, you're stuck. I know they're short, but like, I don't know. There's just something about it's in my face. You know what I mean? Like, and I think I get so and I also like have massive anxiety issues, which is like hysterical. My mom always laughed. She's like, "You're into horror and you have the world's worst anxiety." I said, "Shut up." It's actually very helpful. But like, I'm always like, he actually has a real knife. And I'm like, I'm going to be the actual victim. Obviously that's not true. Like, duh. But yeah, that's where my brain goes. So definitely I am more of a movie person rather than like immersive horror experience person.
I get it. Before I let you go, I wanna talk one thing here to plug Bystanders one more time. Comes out January 21st on VOD. Check it out. The biggest prop that I can give is that this poster is one of the best posters I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Because like, look, I've worked on things that have like come to fruition, and it's like, I mean, that's the best we can do. That looks like somebody dropped the coin, and that could compete with anything that's out in theater right now as opposed
Thank you so much. Because I don't know. I don't, because I mean, I didn't make it. We were lucky enough, like, Dred made the poster, and I am just like, I have no, to me, I was like, does anyone know what this movie's about? I would have thought this about any poster. It's not their fault. And I'm glad to hear that, because I'm just like, I don't know. Does anything translate to anyone?
Okay. I'll put it this way. I did a show with my buddy the other day, and I was promoting how I'm going to interview you. And his exact phrase was, that's something I would see at Blockbuster, and I would pick up that to rent.
That's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life.
Isn't that great?
Oh my God. That makes me want to cry. I love that.
I love that you love that. Wow. Really quickly, Mary Beth, thank you for coming on. Obviously, you can check out all her reviews and interviews on Dread Central. You have this film coming out, but before I let you go, please plug anything and everything else that you want.
Yeah, so I'm on socials at MB McAndrews or at mb.mcandrews on Instagram. I also have a podcast called Scarred for Life, where my co-host and I interview a guest about the movie that terrified them as a kid. We have writers, we have directors, we have every kind of person on the show. So please give us a listen if you so desire. And yeah, keep an eye on my socials for any news about projects, because I've got some cool things coming up that are not movie. I'm not me directing, but you know, other cool things I'm doing.
I get that. Okay. Really quick. I'm sorry. Last question.
Oh no, you're fine.
I realized something. You've directed, you produced, you're going to write something. I'm holding you to it. Remember, I said that. You've also acted. Is acting scary to you?
Oh yeah, no, I hate acting. No. I literally, like, I was a drama kid in high school. I tried to do the acting thing. I really wanted to be a theater kid, and then I think I realized I cannot let go of my sense of shame. Like, I cannot let go of my sense of embarrassment enough to fully let myself commit to acting. Right. I realized this recently. I was like, oh, that's why I can't do it. I have too much embarrassment. And I really, truly do envy and respect the actors who don't worry about that. Like, it's incredible because it's hard. It's way harder than you think. Oh. I've acted in a couple Friends projects, and I actually had a cameo in Bystanders. We had a scene where I was a voice on the phone. It's not in anymore. We had to cut that scene where I was playing Claire's sister on the phone. But we ended up.
I was wondering. I was like,
I know. I know. We made the IMDb and put me in it before we finished the edit, and that scene ended up getting cut. So I am not in Bystanders between my voice or my appearance. And acting is only something I'll be doing out of necessity or out of like favors for friends, because it's just like it's just not for me, and that's fine. I am a behind the camera girl, and that is all that matters.
Well, you're rocking socks, producing, directing, and soon to be writing. So, Mary Beth, thank you for coming on the Death Curse Club and talking about Bystanders, which comes out January 21st. You better check it out on VOD.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
What a wonderful interview with
great
Mary
interview.
Beth. Oh my God. So last week I gave a non-spoiler review of Wolfman, which if you have not watched Wolfman and you would rather have that than the spoilerific review, do that.
Pause now.
Pause, yes, and come back later.
Yeah.
But right now we're going to get into it. Wolfman, spoilers are happening in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This movie was an anticipated one of my anticipated movies of the year, which is crazy because it came out in January. Like, usually January movies are the movies that are not sure if they're going to do well at the box office. Let's just put it out there. Let's do it. And this is one of those intellectual properties that is well known. You're talking about a movie franchise from the 40s and before coming to now. There's been so many different iterations, and Lee Winnell, who directed The Invisible Man, he came back, he co-wrote this with another writer. I forget what he did before, but that doesn't matter.
Okay.
But here we are, The Wolfman. Brooke, I gave my non-spoiler thoughts. What are your just overall thoughts of the movie?
There were a lot of things that I really liked about it. I liked the go back and forth between what the Wolfman saw and then what the the mother and daughter saw, and kind of having that transformation, because it was very intriguing in a sense, even from like the sound of not understanding to how his family looked visually, and also him not understanding what was going on in such a rapid pace. And so here's what I will say: when we were going in to watch the movie, when I had watched the trailer and stuff, I was like, it just seems so bizarre. Like, why would you stick around? And it was essentially because they had no mode of transportation. Yep. And this is all within 12 hours. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. It's one night.
Yeah. So all of these things kind of transpiring of what's going on. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Don't know anything or anyone. And I can't help you type thing. Right. But also not being able to communicate what he is feeling and going through. So for my thinking of it like that, I think that they did a really good job to where reactions and things and choices made sense. Right.
Goodness gracious, guy. Calm down.
But my biggest pet peeve, and I think that this has kind of been a pet peeve for a lot of people, is what's her name in it?
Julie Gardner.
Yes. I was just a little disappointed because I feel like she had done so well in Ozark, and I really loved her in Inventing Anna, to where I thought that she did such a good job of giving emotion. So for this movie, I felt like there was a lack of emotion in the beginning until then all of a sudden there was an excessive amount of emotion, not in a bad way, which I would see, not excessive. So that's not maybe a normal amount of emotion that she did not possess beforehand. But when the love of your life is dying and you didn't realize, and thinking about that they're dying and not being able to do anything, those emotions then could kick in. There would be a switch of oh snap, I need to, care.
It's weird because I find myself, it's one of those movies where I would rather just keep researching and figuring out stuff. I'll watch the movie, but I feel like I'd rather more behind the scenes stuff at this moment. And the reason why, I kind of see what happened here.
Yeah.
I think Lee Winnell came in and was like, I'm going to do something different from The Invisible Man because what's the point of doing
the same
thing?
No,
because
I think
one is more psychological scary. This one is more body horror.
Yeah.
And classic horror tale because it's the Wolfman. Nobody wants us like just a guy walking around. I'm a wolf.
So
like we want to chase. We want to bite.
So it actually brought me back to like when watching some of the transformation happen and like him going through it, obviously, and then a slower process. But it took me back to the horror makeup show at Universal and how they were talking about the transformation and things like that, and like how things are done. I'm like, that I felt like that was an inspirational piece for it because that was the focus of this, of the transformation into a wolf. For me, if you just gave me wolf, I would be like, whoa.
Right.
What happened? And then that's not, for me, that's not the movie. This movie is about his transforming.
This is my theory.
Okay.
Conspiracy theory about the movie.
Okay.
I think the point was to make a kind of creepy, just slow burn till the end type of movie. And I think there is a version of this that's an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think what people wanted of the family dynamic in the beginning with Julie Gardner, of how she is Julia Gardner is so detached from everything but work. So when she's detached, her emotions about anything or just being kind of scared and panhandling to others to the point of, by the end of this movie, fast forward to the end, she has to stand up for her daughter and be present for her daughter and husband in that real life. And I think that would have played better.
Yeah.
Again, it's the slow burn, and that's when they realized, oh, people aren't going to like this movie because it's actually kind of a thinker.
That's fair.
We need to give them something that's like rah, rah, rah. So cut a lot of it and just put it out. It only cost us, true legit, $7 million. And when we recorded this, it came in at number 2 and it made $14 million with some overseas. So 16 million total. It's profit already.
Yeah.
So you don't look at this movie as, in my eyes, I don't look at it as a failure because they knew exactly what they were getting. It's not going to hurt. But I think there is a different version. And you also got to take into how much
it costs to make. You can't just be like, oh, it only made this much, so it's a bomb.
Well, like I said, it's $7 million budget, which means you need to make double. That's 14.
That's impressive.
It's already done.
That's impressive.
That's most of Blumhouse's motif of making movies, is something low budget like that. So this all being said, now I want to get to the story real quick for me. I obviously got really into the dynamic of the son not wanting to be the father. At the beginning of this movie, he goes hunting with his dad, and then a wolf man is around.
Yeah.
And he's protecting him from him. And so the kid learns about Wolfman.
Yeah.
What's really funny at the beginning, and I forget where, I want to say maybe I heard this on Sunday Movies, Mr. Sunday Movies. When the beginning of a movie, besides Star Wars, like it's almost like it's a curse now.
Oh.
Any movie that starts with text, that's when you know you're watching a bad movie. That's what they said. So the moment there was like words up, I went, fuck, this is going to be a bad movie. But in my eyes, I'm wondering now after the fact, are we doing that because there is more footage about what the fuck is going on and we're not getting it? Because so this is them just summing it up because they're not showing the footage.
No, that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
All that happens, then we get to the city. I'm guessing New York. Did they say New York? So in New York, he's he's a stay-at-home dad. Julia is a woman who is working for a newspaper.
Yeah, she's a journalist.
And he was a writer himself, but now he's the stay-at-home dad. Yeah, he's in between jobs, and he gets the keys to his dad's house. They left it to him, and as one that knows that's not how this shit works.
Well, he had a will.
I'm just playing.
No, it was very on that point without them saying, like he's been missing.
Right.
And he has finally been pronounced
dead. He's gone.
And so now he's getting the keys. And I think that the reason for going, because it's like there's this like part of you that's like, if you didn't have a good relationship with your dad, why are you going there? Right. But I think that there is this level of closure, as well as the fact of him trying to, where you were alluding to, not be the dad that he had to his own child.
Right.
But then there's this aspect of him and his wife seemingly not on the same page, right?
Right.
And that's what that part of the conversation was. Right. So for him, he's like, you know what? Let's escape, because you are work driven. Let's escape so where this is not, and we can kind of deal with this. It's beautiful there. And I can take something that is a heartbreak for me and make it have better memories.
Yeah, for sure. And that's dead on. And we didn't dive into his relationship with his dad, but you could tell his dad was a soldier.
Yeah.
A Marine, probably, I believe. And like, he has seen some shit. So he takes a lot out on his kid.
Yeah.
I mean, from the get, he's like, 0600, get up.
Yep.
And he had to make his bed like he was a soldier.
Like pristine. And I was like,
So we get that kind of backstory. So him coming here, him wanting this, he finds an old buddy that still lives there who's going to take him to his house. Then he sees something, crashes the car, and then they're on the run.
Yeah.
Before that, when they crash, Chris Abbott's character gets the window smashed in and clawed.
Yeah.
So he is now infected. And that's the thing about this movie that I like. And in the Leigh Whannell universe, his use of the monsters are practical and more ground-based than anything else. And the way that he treats the Wolfman in this is a virus.
Yeah.
Like, it's treated like this is something that passes down if you're infected.
Right.
And
I mean,
I
that's
like
even
that.
from the get-go, too.
Right.
Of them talking about the reason that there are not as many people in that area is because of the virus.
Right. And that was what I was talking about of the Kirk, man.
Bud, get down.
Get down. Come here. But that's what I was talking about with the words at the beginning. The scroll was because the indigenous people have called this like wolf face. I don't know. It's
something
been
like
a little
that.
bit.
Yeah.
But it was something face of the wolf or wolf
of the
face.
Wolf. Yeah.
So because he has been injured, they find his house. They hide there, and then the slow transformation happens. Yes. Like you were saying earlier at the horror makeup show, like when they do the transformation, most movies, Teen Wolf for fuck's sakes, most transformations take like a second to get there. This is a slow burn of like teeth falling out, nails falling out, bones changing, everything's just changing. And I thought that was done really well. And then eventually, like that wolf man that was coming for them, like Chris Abbott's still able to try to protect his family, but you could tell that it's failing.
Right.
So they kill what?
Okay. No, go ahead. I've got a theory.
Okay, so eventually they kill that wolf man, and now Chris Abbott is now full on. But they also noticed that wolfman, and this was actually my favorite thing that happened, because I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's my movie-going experience now where I'm just listening to others, because I'm in a very movie world. You know this. I watch like 42 fucking shows about movies. I'm in the internet world for it, whatever. So when I'm actually in the theater and like the Superman trailer plays and I legit hear there's a new Superman, blows my fucking mind. I, from the get, thought the Wolfman that infected him was his dad, which is what we find out. The gasp in that theater when everybody saw the dad tattoo, you went, like you did that. And I was like,
listen, I am the perfect movie
But that's what I'm saying. But see, this is what I'm saying, because I'm so internet. I knew from the jump that the dad was going to be that werewolf. The fact that you guys were shocked, I love.
Right.
And I wish I could have been.
Right.
But that was wild.
Right. Well, and then, so this is where I was saying like my theory came in of it being like, because it amazed me that his dad and him lived there for as long
Continue.
for as long as they did.
Yeah.
And there was no essential or attack, and obviously there could have been, we just didn't know, like, of the house.
Yeah.
But then he's there
Yeah.
with his family, and the house is being attacked. I mean, to the point where, like, he's grabbing him and trying to pull him through the door.
Right.
And there was part of me that when I learned that it was his dad, I was like, oh my God, was his dad trying to get him away and being like, protect
the humans
in a sense, because he knew what was going to happen.
I don't think so. And the reason, well, maybe. No, okay. Now, see, again, the whole idea of it. Because
I'm saying that could be. I'm not saying that's necessarily what it was.
Let's fast
but, like,
forward more after that. So he's like turning. He is actually going after his family now.
Yeah.
To the point of, like, the beginning of the movie, his dad put him in one of those hunting shelters.
Yes.
Like up high, and that's where the Wolfman was trying to find him, and like the dad was going to shoot. So they get back up there. They found the gun from the guy who died, who found them. They get up into that shed, and like he's climbing up like the Wolfman at the beginning. But there's this thing throughout the movie of like, my daughter can read my mind, and she does this thing, puts her hand on his head and says, "Oh, you think I'm the best daughter in the world?
Right.
Oh, yeah, you're so
me,
right.
blah,
You're so
blah,
right."
blah, blah.
There's a point in the movie where like she's looking at him and she's like, "Oh, he's in pain. Oh, he's this, that, the other thing." And the final thing was he just wants to be like put out of his misery.
Yeah, like let him go.
Let him go. And then he makes a dive. Now, was the dive to ensure to shoot him?
I think
like,
so.
was he always cognizant of like in his mind, he's seeing this happening, but the virus has taken over completely?
I think so.
So does the grandfather know he's doing this, or is it just vicious kind of steam? Like,
Well,
it's one of those things
yeah.
that I won't find out until a director
but
talks about it.
There's also the level of like, I love that you could have that conversation, because I don't think that there's anything definitive, because if you go the route of his dad had some known whereabouts,
Right.
then it's then of like, well, why did he attack him in the first place?
Right.
Until maybe he didn't realize that it was him, type
Right.
thing.
Right.
But then you also have that, like what you just said, he was like, knew that he needed to go, and this was
Right.
him ensuring it.
Right.
Because you did have that one scene where he actually heard his daughter talking.
Yes.
Like,
Oh,
it
yeah,
came
that's right.
through.
He came through.
And I was like, oh, that's an interesting,
Yeah.
like, how is that going to play out?
Right.
And I feel like because of that scene, there's a level of maybe, he was able to,
Kind of control it at some point.
yeah, at some points. Not all the points.
No. It does make me wonder, now it's like, was the grandpa too far gone though?
Right.
Like, has he been it for so long? Because at one point I was even thinking, so you know how they went into the basement and then he opened the thing and saw like the jerky and
Yeah,
stuff.
that was weird.
It made me wonder if the grandpa realized he was that, and we still don't know. Are you Wolfman the entire time from
Right.
that point
Or
out?
do you go back and forth?
Because at first, when we don't know this, I was like, oh, did he cage himself? Like, if the transformation was coming, he closed the door and made sure there was meat in there so he could eat, or
Right.
whatever. I mean, there's questions to have
There's so
that I
many.
love.
Right.
And what's really great, because of it being grounded, and I know, so while recording this, Lee Winnell said he's not doing an Invisible Man 2. He feels that's gone by the wayside. He's not going to do a sequel to this. But I don't necessarily say this world has to be dead in what we've created, because what I find interesting is if we could have like the company from the Invisible Man, whatever that company is, if that is the start of like this universe of, okay, well, we have this new technology suit. We've heard about these Wolfmans and this thing, put on the suit to go get some DNA. You know what I mean? To play with that.
Right.
We got the DNA, and now we can either make more Wolfman that's more controllable, and it's only by the moonlight that gets them, or we've like transferred the virus and now makes Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde.
Right.
You know, you can
really have a little bit of playroom there. Absolutely. And I love the fact that, like you said from the beginning of this, like this world is based off of the virus.
Right.
Whereas when you think about Invisible Man, that is a company creating a suit.
Right.
So you have these things and it melds so well of what it goes back to, of what universal monsters are, of there are different levels of monsters, and what level of monster are you getting, right? Because I do feel like even when we think about some of the cartoons that we've been watching with some of these characters, right, and how they've portrayed some different universal monsters,
right.
Some of them are coming across as heroes,
right?
But I don't think that was ever the intent when they were created,
right,
to be heroes,
right?
Not that I don't love watching them like that, because you do have. I mean, I have a bride beanie, like of course, like I've got love for the bride,
right?
But I also love seeing like this
true
sense
monster.
of monster.
Like
yes.
And I love that, like, when those movies were made back in the past, they were always messages of that time.
Yeah.
Like, so whatever's going on, this is supposed to be an allegory for this. And that's what I think with these two movies. They're allegories for traumatic experiences for humans. And I think that's what's the hard part of it. Yes, it succeeded in my mind, but also, like, God, why can't just fucking people watch something that's a little smarter than them?
Right.
I just do not get it sometimes.
And by no means am I saying like this is like movie of the year by any instance. But I think when you take the movie for what it is at that face value, while also sprinkling in a little bit of the conversation piece and smartness of it, and like you said, the message behind it.
Right.
To me, that's, you got a solid movie there.
Yeah.
Are there things about it that I don't like? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But that I think they could have done better? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the mom, but it could have just been some of
editing
the editing and directing
stuff.
and all of these things that played a role, because she does really well in other movies. So it's really not the actress, I don't think.
Right.
So for me, like, there's just so many things that while it annoys me, I don't think it completely took me out of the movie. And for me, if you can sit there and have a conversation after the movie, not about whether or not it's good or bad, like take that part out, but a conversation like we were just having, that's a solid movie then.
Yeah. And I feel what it does right, it's 90 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
It's in and out. There's some good tints. I think it has the best sound I've had it in a theater in years. I think it is a theatrical experience to enjoy it. I've seen some people be like, "Oh, just wait for VOD." I don't think that's this case. I will say probably go to theater on Tuesday.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I only have it at like a 3.5. But I'm tired of this. Like, if it's not the best, it's the worst. Yeah. And that's not how I like to fucking talk.
You're not first.
Movies.
You're last.
Apparent fucking late. But I think this is a fun film. I also think you should watch Bystanders, which is on VOD this 21st. Right there. There's the poster. When you see this poster, you rent or buy that movie. Thank you for that director coming on. Mary Beth, you were amazing. Also, Brooke, you were amazing.
Oh my God, thank you.
And you guys are amazing too. Please subscribe to this channel on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever you use. Like it. Jesus. Boom, boom, or whatever the fuck. All right, we will spook you later. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.